Many places you go, such as Gettysburg or Antietam, you will hear the tour guides talk about witness trees. These were trees that were actually alive at the time when something historical took place and a major event happened. In the case of Antietam battlefield, there is a tree at the end of Burnside's Bridge that is rather large now, but in the photos during the battle that were taken or just after the battle, you could see this tree was alive at the time and standing there. I want to tell you about my witness tree that happens to be on my property, and I'll tell you a few stories and a few things that this tree has witnessed. This tree is a white oak, and as you can see, it's very large. Even the bottom branch is probably 18 to 20 inches in diameter. At one point, it towers up several 100 feet in the air and spans out 150, 160 feet, 170 feet maybe. I'm not sure. But I had measured the trunk of this tree, and this tree measures over 15 feet in circumference. If you come up at 4 feet above the base, or around 4.5 feet above the base, and you take a tape measure and go around it, that's where it measures over 5 feet or over 15 feet around. The tree, if you do all the calculations on it, is somewhere between 400 to 500 years old. It is pretty close probably to 500 years old. As you can see, there's some knots on it. And way up high, up in that area somewhere, is a piece of wire that was stuck in the tree. But this tree has a story to tell. There is quite a bit of rubble or trash underneath this tree. It's covered over. You can't see a lot of it. You can see whatever that is over there with the red on it. Right there is a flip top off of a can or something. There's a pop can right there. And over the years, me and my siblings have unearthed quite a bit of long-necked, dark-colored bottles that held a refreshing beverage in them that the railroad men used to drink quite often on the job. That would have been back probably in the 20s or 30s and maybe even the 40s. And definitely the 50s. I think the bottles probably that we've unearthed probably date most of them to the 1950s. But it was something that was allowed back then, and they did quite a bit of it. Assuming this tree is around 500 years old, it would have sprouted somewhere around 1522. If it was only 400 years old, it would have still been 1622. It is definitely at least 400 years old. 1622, there was no white people here in North America, in this area. This was all just a vast wilderness. And there definitely wasn't this here. This railroad was built in through this area approximately 1855, when this section of rail was laid between West Junction and what is now Beyer Station, or what was then Beyer Station, which is Beyer, Ohio. And that's going in that direction. That's east. If you go west, it followed that rail that turns to the right, kind of sags and turns to the right. That was the original railroad. This one that goes to the left is goes towards Richmondale. It's a CH&D Railroad, that's what it was called when it was built, which stood for Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton. They were later bought out by B&O Railroad. This original line was called the Marietta Cincinnati Railway. And at that time, this tree was already an old fort. So in the 1850s, it saw the crews come through here. It saw many people who were sweating, who were dirty, who were just trying to work to make a living. You can see the spread of the branches a lot better from this direction. So in 1855, when the railroad was built, they also built right across here, right about where that switch is up there with the green thing. There is a foundation to the old switching tower, and I will have a picture of it in this video. So we can assume that there was many Native Americans rested underneath the boughs of this tree. We don't know all of the stories and what happened here prior to white habitation of this area, but I can imagine a young Indian resting beneath the boughs of this old oak tree and taking a break after a long day of hunting. Maybe he was on a raiding party and they were going somewhere to fight an enemy. We just don't know. But we do know that this tree was alive more than 400 years ago, and it would have seen many Native Americans pass through. Possibly it saw the buffalo that were coming from the Pickaway Plains and heading to Jackson County, which this rail line runs into Jackson County. The buffalo traveled from Pickaway Plains to Jackson to the salt licks there, as well as did many of the Native Americans, and many early white settlers went to Jackson to boil salt and mine salt. So we know that this tree witnessed probably some of those travelers. In 1860 or 61, the U.S. Civil War started, and this tree was alive then, and it saw Civil War troops passing along this rail line. In somewhere around 1863, John Hunt Morgan made his raid through southern Ohio and Indiana, and there was a Union troop train came across this line and went into Jackson County to Hamden, and there the troops unloaded from the train and made a quick march south to the little hamlet of Berlin Crossroads. And at that point is where the 73rd Ohio, commanded by Colonel Runkle, encountered John Hunt Morgan's troops, and about a 4-hour battle ensued there, and Morgan lost 4 men there and a lot of valuable time. And we will tell the story of John Hunt Morgan in another video. When my mother was just a young girl during World War II, this tree witnessed a lot of troops come across it during World War I, World War II, because this line was the National Defense Line, and it was critical for the movement of troops from one part of the United States to another. My mom remembered seeing German POWs on a train come through here, and on up the track up this direction there was a side track, and many times they would put some trains on the sideline in order to let another train pass. And so my mom and her sisters, they would come down to the railroad track and they would look at the pretty German POWs that were heading towards a POW camp out west. And they would kind of, as little teenage girls, they'd kind of, make goo-goo eyes, I guess, at some of these German POWs. My mom said that they were some of the prettiest blonde-haired, blue-eyed men that you ever laid your eyes on. So this old tree has seen a lot of things happen over the years. It has seen United States presidents go by. It has seen many, many things over the history of this railroad and over the lifespan of its 400 to 500 years. Let your imagination run wild and just think of some of the things that this tree has witnessed. Yes, it is a witness tree. Yes, it's not a person, and I don't attribute any human qualities or anything to this tree. But this tree definitely is a creature. It is definitely a living thing. And it has seen a lot over its 400 to 500 years. You have a good day.